the Civil Aeronautics Board since March 2006, having been appointed to the same position by 4 presidents prior to being appointed as CAB Executive Director. He's also served as CAB Deputy Executive Director. He was the Executive Director of the Presidential Commission on the Development of Marilake Corridor under the Office of the President, since earning his Bachelor of Law from the University of Santo Tomas, where he was awarded as Outstanding Alumnus in 2011. He served as Chief Legal Officer of the Rizal Provincial Government and also served as the Legal Counsel of Santo Lucia Realty and Development. Let's give a big applause to Attorney Carmelo Arcilla.
Thank you very much to the Master of Ceremonies. Good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to be here with you, seeing familiar faces, friends and colleagues in the aviation industry. I have the chance to catch up with friends that I have not seen for a while. So thank you for inviting me. Congratulations to the organizers. Looks to be a very successful summit. A lot of people, a lot of sponsors, a lot of networking. And my topic for this afternoon is about the status of and the current developments in the Philippine aviation industry. But before I dwell on that topic, maybe I can walk you through a short history of Philippine aviation. They say that aviation is the most global of all industries. Most global in the sense that it is like the blood circulatory system of the world that connects every country and supports trade, tourism, and investments. And it is also governed by the International Civil Aviation Organization, a United Nations agency that issues guidelines and principles that affect global aviation. It is also sustained by a global logistics system, and it's also subject to the global economic cycles and also upheavals like the global pandemic and what else? Major wars, the 9/11 crisis. And so there's nothing more global than that. At a bit of history, the aviation industry was strictly regulated. Maybe 50 years ago, it was still strictly regulated. When we say strictly regulated, competition is restricted on 2 areas. Number 1 would be entry and exit into the industry was restricted. So international operations covered by existing air services agreement between countries contain a designation clause. It's an authorization clause that limits the number of airlines that can operate under the agreement. In the domestic sector, the number of airlines that can operate a given route is also limited, such that if I am an incumbent operator in one route and there is another applicant for the same route, I can interpose the objection. I can object to that application by saying that, this route is adequately served by my airline, and so there is no necessity for additional operator. And that restricts competition. Another area of strict regulation would be the fares. In the very old days, fares are fixed by the government, and the government computes the cost and then gives some kind of margin of profit in order to protect public interest. But these 2 restrictions prevent competition. And so the result was a very stagnant kind of industry slow development of the industry, and the fares were very prohibitive. In the old days, air travel, especially for Filipinos, is only for the well-to-do. No, and it is not accessible to the ordinary Filipino. But sometime in 1978, the United States came up with the Airline Deregulation Act. And the European Union followed suit by, they also liberalized the aviation industry in the EU. And thereafter, most countries adopted a liberal aviation regime at varying degrees in order to suit the requirements and the needs of their market. No? And you know, this kind of policy came to our shores in 1995 when former President Fidel Ramos issued Executive Order 219. No? That's a very critical issuance, 1995, Executive Order 219. It defined the progressive liberalization policy of the Philippine aviation industry. And it set in motion a process that resulted in the rapid, remarkable, and robust growth in traffic in the Philippines. Traffic also grew exponentially, not exponentially, but remarkably globally. For example, in 2019, prior to the COVID onslaught, about 4.5 billion people traveled all over the world. But 10 years before that, in 2009, only 2.45 million people traveled. And so that is an increase of about 90%. But in the Philippines, it was even higher. In 2019, overall traffic in the Philippines was more than 60 million. And in 2009, 10 years before, it was about 27 million for a growth rate of about 120%. That's one of the highest growth rates in the world, at an average of maybe 10% per year, although our base numbers are low. No? So what resulted from that kind of, how did it happen? No? So that rapid growth in traffic was the result of the relaxation of two areas of restriction. No? As I said earlier, entry and exit was opened up, meaning that airlines can compete for the purpose, for the sake of competition. An incumbent airline cannot interpose an objection that, you know, this route is well served, just like in that kind of practice still prevails in land transportation actually. In land transportation, they have what they call the route measured capacity. In other words, jeepneys cannot just operate out of line because there's a measured number of jeepneys that can operate in the route. And the result of that is no competition. And then liberalization also allowed pricing freedom that allowed airlines to compete on fares. No? And mind you, the only way that airlines can compete is actually largely in the area of fares. Because if fares are even, there's hardly any competition. So with that liberalization, the tide of the liberalization that swept the world, air traffic in the Philippines grew robustly. No? And it's very good for Filipinos. Air travel was democratized, and a lot of Filipinos are able to travel as tourists abroad, and it is very good for the traveler because, you know, going on a tour to another country is very defining. It gives a person a sense of accomplishment and enriches the perspective of the person visiting other cultures. So it's very good for the Filipinos. But as they say, the good comes with the bad. Life is defined by contrast, so to speak. So robust growth in traffic was accompanied by problems because the more flights, the more passengers, the more complicated revenue management system, the more complicated fare differentiation, unbundling of rates, congested airports, brought about a plethora of complaints from passengers. And so the need to focus on passenger protection and consumer protection regulations to address that concern. And the Philippines was ahead of this passenger protection regulations. We came up with this, what we call the Air Passenger Bill of Rights, through the Joint Administrative Order number 1 of the Department of Transportation and the Department of Trade and Industry. So the rudiments or the major pillars of that APBR, we call it, issued in 2012, is number 1, the right to full disclosure of the terms and conditions of the ticket. And then the number 2 would be the right to the full value of the service contracted under the ticket. And the third would be the right to compensation in the event of delays, cancellations, and other injuries occasioned on the passenger through the fault of the airlines. So even as the world liberalized air transportation, countries came up with their own sets of consumer protection guidelines and rules, even in the United States, in the EU, India, everywhere. But we were first. What other developments happened as a result of the regulation? This is the snapshot of the... Now we are on the road to recovery. The COVID pandemic set back the hands of time and really decimated the numbers. But now we are close to 2019 levels. Yes, global traffic is very close to the 2019 levels. So, other developments in the policy framework, we have liberalization, and then just recently, 2 years ago, Congress of the Philippines passed the Public Service Act as amended. And the Public Service Act sort of relaxed the ownership structure of airlines and airports. Because under previous laws, the airports and airlines are considered public utilities, and as public utilities, they are required to conform or comply with the 60-40 threshold of ownership by nationals of the Philippines, meaning that the minimum equity of Filipino nationals in airlines and in airports should be 60%, and the maximum of the foreign equity would be 40%. But with the issuance of the Public Service Act, by the way, the implementing rules of this Public Service Act as amended was only approved in April of last year. So this is a pretty new legislation that is intended to encourage foreign investments into the airports and foreign investments into the airlines. And so it is a young legislation. It remains to be seen, but we are confident that it will perk up investments in the Philippines. So, liberalization is only one component of growing the market. You can have all the liberal kind of policies, opening up the sky, so to speak. But if you do not have the infrastructure, there will be less flights, there will be less passengers, you will not grow. So the government, even in previous administrations, have come up with a build program to sort of quicken the pace of infrastructure development, spare infrastructure development, and our president came up with a bigger and more efficient way. It's called the Build More program that also encompasses airport development under the PPP. PPP, public-private partnership, is very popular and is now the trend all over the world. When we say PPP, people think of privatization or private ownership of airports. But in reality, the more common and more popular mode of PPP is private participation. And private participation can take the form of maybe an operation and management agreement, concession agreement, or even minority ownership of shares by private enterprises. No? And what is the rationale for adopting the PPP concept? Number one is access to finances. No? Because of course governments, maybe all over the world, have difficulty accessing finance because they are saddled by the bureaucratic process. They're slowed down by the bureaucratic process. Also, private enterprises would have admittedly better operational skills, better financial management skills, and because it is profit-oriented, they go for efficiency. Because if they are not efficient, they will not be viable. No? So, unlike bureaucrats, of course I'm a bureaucrat, but we're not very good at running the infrastructure and utilities. No? And we have some kind of a template. The template is Mactan Cebu Airport, Clark Airport. Those are PPP projects. Mactan has blossomed into a very significant airport. It's world-class, very beautiful airport. It is now operated and managed by Aboitiz Group in partnership with the GMR of India. It's also good that there is now an emergence of what we call a global airport management industry. So GMR of India, they operate airports outside of India, they construct airport, they make a good account of themselves in Mactan. So this is some kind of encouragement for the government, for the PPP program, and our good Secretary Jimmy Bautista and Yusek Bablim of Undersecretary of Airports are hard at work in implementing these PPP programs. So you and I know that San Miguel Aerocity, a subsidiary of San Miguel Equities, or San Miguel's corporation, the name is San Miguel Holdings, is building a world-class big airport in Bulacan, which will be the new Manila International Airport, which can rival the best and the biggest in the world. So this is a big ticket project, and in September of this year, San Miguel Corporation will also take over the Manila International Airport called NAIA, and the goal, because it is bursting in the seams, we are actually turning away a lot of airlines from Manila because we cannot be accommodated at the NAIA. So the goal of this rehabilitation program that is going to be undertaken by San Miguel is to increase the runway movements from 40 per hour to 48 per hour, and to increase the passenger capacity of the airport from the design capacity of 35 million to about 60 million. So good things are coming. And what else? The EM modernization. On the screen you can see slides about the new airports that we have in Bohol, we have in Panglao, we have in Bicol. Those are the airports, no, that are being upgraded. New airports are being built, and this is very essential because whereas we need to continue to grow and expand the capacity of the main gateways in Manila, concomitantly we also have to expand and build airports outside of Manila to support the economic centers outside of Manila. And it so happened that most of our tourism destinations are actually outside of Manila. And the reason why our tourism numbers are not really that big, of course, it's in recent years, it has accelerated the numbers, but we do not have enough connectivity to our airports outside of Manila. And so the strategy of expanding and building modern airports outside of Manila, and you can see on the screen, a lot of the airports are being expanded and built in airports outside of Manila. And from what I understand, the DOTR has a 1 trillion peso budget for the expansion of secondary airports. No? And so, those are in the pipeline for upgrade, expansion, Lagindingan, New Bohol International, Calibo, marami. Under implementation are those things. No? And our secretary and the undersecretary, they go on road shows abroad to entice proponents to, to enter into PPPs with our government for the development of our airports. So these programs, PPPs, will continue to propel the Philippines into the next generations, to address the demand, and so that it can support the main revenue generators of the Philippines, revenue earners. The sectors would be trade, number one. 54% of our trade in terms of value is carried by air transportation. According to IATA, globally, 35% of all trade in terms of value is carried by air transportation. But in the Philippines, it's even higher. And the reason is because our main export is electronic goods, high-value electronic goods. It also supports our deployment of OFWs, workers all over the world. We have about 12 million of them. And you need a well-connected aviation network in order to support the deployment of our international workers. And the top three trade deployment of workers abroad, the number three would be tourism. Tourism is the third revenue generator for the Philippines. It supports about 1.2 million workers directly and indirectly. The multiplier effect of tourism is really astounding. They say that tourism is a gift that continues to give and does not stop giving. What they call the backward linkages, the forward linkages, When you say backward linkages, those are the activities that make tourism happen, like air transportation. Without air transportation, there will be no tourism in the Philippines because we are an archipelagic country. 99 point something of our tourism are airborne. No, so without the tourism, well, without the airlines, there will be no tourism. And also there are, they call it forward linkages. It sounds good, but they only refer to multiplier effect. Forward linkages is the activities that are created by tourism, like for example, demand of hotel accommodation, restaurants, shopping. So the multiplier effect of tourism is amazing, and it is a major pillar of our economic strategy. So what are the advantages of a privatized or an airport that is subject to a PPP? As I mentioned, there is, yung innovation is number one. They have operational skills. I already said that. They have this financial management skills, and they are profit-oriented, and they tend to be more efficient. But there's also, the other face of PPP airports would be some risks, no? And some of those risks would be higher user cost, risk of monopoly, unequal access, discrimination. And this is also governed by ICAO guidelines and principles. No? Operation of airports, privatized or privately operated airports must conform with certain standards, no? When it comes to rate fixing. Number one, it should be transparent, the process of fixing the rates. Number two, it should be cost-based, not market-based, but cost-based. Number three, there should be consultation. And number four, access should not be discriminatory. There should not be discrimination in access. And so, in the Philippines, since the PPPs are quite new in the area of airport development, we still do not have an independent, am I on time pa? Okay. So, what was I saying? PPP, anyway, I'm old. I cannot remember. I lost track of what I was saying. So, there's a bill in Congress called the Airport Development Act. No? And if it is passed into law, this will regulate the operation of privatized airport or privately managed airports. But for now, it is the Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines that handles the matter of the fixing of rates, and I'm sure that the CAP will be able and capable of discharging this function. No? So let us, I see a bright picture ahead of us in terms of developing airports and addressing the high demand for air travel. And I believe that the aviation industry will continue to adapt and will continue to be aligned with the modern trends in regulation and also issue regulations that are relevant in order to continue to propel the Philippines into achieving its economic goals in the next generations to come. So with that, I think I am on time. No? So thank you very much for this opportunity to share with you some insights.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, that was a
Attorney Carmelo Arcilla, Executive Director of the Civil Aeronautics Board. I told you, yung mga presenters natin, pabata ng pabata, di ba?